and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land. What if they don't? What if they don't humble themselves and pray and seek his face and turn from their wicked ways? Well, maybe he's not going to hear you from heaven and forgive their sin and will heal their land. Now, collectively, I don't believe this is going to happen. The church is way too apathetic, way too lukewarm, but individually, it can happen. Then it says in verse 15, now mine eyes, if you do all this, in other words, now mine eyes shall be open, and mine ears attent unto the prayer that is made in this place. For now have I chosen and sanctified this house, that my name may be there forever, and mine eyes and mine heart shall be there perpetually. He says that this verse that we just read is the current reality for all of us who are born-again Christians, and especially those for us who are called by his name. Proverbs 22, verse 3, says, a prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. Now again, I would say see my teaching on overcoming. Just all you got to do is key in overcoming, or oversee. I mean, just part of the word and you'll find it. Or there's another one you might want to listen to called A Door of Hope. The Door of Hope, which we talk about in imprecatory prayers, which is something that's never, hardly ever talked about. That's another very important one, moving into the times we're moving into, that has totally been pretty much ignored by the modern day church. This next article, is which is what Doug was talking about, is an article entitled from Fred Marshall Jr. This is from October 5th, this year, 2008. And it says, when will martial law be declared? That's the title of this article. He says, martial law isn't far away. For 2 decades, the U.S. government has been preparing for it. Using the ungodly huge FEMA budgets and now Homeland Security budgets, local police departments, sheriff's departments, highway patrol forces have been trained and equipped to military standards. Countless joint training exercises have been conducted all across the country to get them all, quote, up to speed. They have practiced door-to-door house searches, concentrating mainly on the forced confiscation of privately owned firearms and apprehension and detention of dissidents. They even use children to supplement technology to help them find which homes contain firearms and their locations within the homes. I believe that's part of that DARE program that they have, where they're actually using little children to become little spies and narcs for the government, for Big Brother. Foreign troops have been trained for many years on U.S. soil and have achieved efficiency in some of the same techniques. Foreign troops are essential, as they will have less reservation when the time comes to confiscate weapons and shoot resistors. Recently, President Bush ordered the 1st Brigade of the 3rd Infantry Division, home based in Fort Stewart, Georgia, back early from Iraq, ostensibly to serve as a quick reactionary force for crowd control and to quell potential insurrections. The real purpose, however, is far more ominous. That hasn't gotten much mention in the mainstream media, but it is a confirmed fact. It was even up on the Army website. They had it up there for 2 or 3 days, I think, and took it down real quick. I have personally talked to several senior non-commissioned officers of the returning brigade. This guy's personally talked to them. For the non-military among you, an infantry brigade is composed of 3,500 men. The economy is about to collapse. Then the dollar will completely be destroyed. The former is likely to occur not later than a week after the election and possibly before. Now that's his take on this. I'm not going to be dogmatic and become a date setter. Okay? But he says the former, meaning the dollar will completely be destroyed, is likely to occur not later than a week after the election, possibly before, if we even have an election. Because if Bush implements martial law, the elections are suspended. And this is why, again, he wants to push it, because he doesn't want to go out of office. He's a madman at this point. The later will come before the Ides of March. Okay, and that's March. There's a in order to understand the Ides of March, you have to go up and actually do a keyword search to understand the definition of the Ides of March. I'm not going to go down that rabbit trail today, but it's IDES of March. Then he says, I don't know when the former merger of the United States, Mexico, and Canada will occur. The target date is that it is to be complete and functional by 2010, but I suspect within the next year, but more probably sooner. Progress is being made much faster than planners anticipated. I don't really agree with that statement. I don't believe progress has been made. If they had their way, all of this would have been done in 1984. That was why we had George Orwell's 1984 thing that he put out, okay, about Big Brother and the whole 9 yards. No, their timetable has continually been pushed back. I believe that's purely the mercy from the Lord Jesus Christ. He's given us more time to prepare. Progress is being made much faster, he says. It stands to reason that many Americans and Canadians will vehemently oppose such a sovereignty-destroying move. Therefore, it is imperative that the population be disarmed before they try to pull that off. Disarming the population cannot be done without the powers of martial law, so that it will precede the disarmament. I won't even hazard a guess as to who will be in charge of this. Bush could do it at any time, up till midnight, January 19th, 2009. If he does it before the November elections, then he could suspend elections and remain president, possibly for up to 2 more years. Or it could be done shortly after the inauguration of President Obama or McCain. It's hard to tell which one of these men behind the curtain they have actually anointed. Now remember, he's basically saying it like it's a foregone conclusion that this is all by design and this is just part of their plan. You know, it's not this, it's all this chaos isn't being done without a lot of foreknowledge, in other words. Rest assured they have anointed one or the other, and the results of this sham election have been predetermined already, as we've stated before. Too much is at stake at this critical juncture in history, and nothing will be left to chance. September 11, 2001 has taught us that, if it taught us nothing else. On the other hand, Hitler spent several years putting in place the legislation he needed and establishing the mood among the people he needed before openly assuming dictatorial powers. Why would George Bush or any other president spend 8 years laying the groundwork and then when the final bricks are in place, turn it all over to a Barack Obama or John McCain? It's a pretty good point. Why would he not just go ahead and do it himself? Considering the logical answer to that question, it seems more likely that he will do it and suspend the elections. But who can know for certain? Somebody does, but it's not us, folks. Well, the Lord Jesus Christ knows, okay? We don't know much about Obama other than more likely than not he's a devout Muslim. That's been proven, totally proven at this point. In fact, I just put out an email yesterday, and it gives you link after link after link proving that. Not to say that you know, I'm for McCain either, because it's just two sides of the same wicked coin. The evidence buttressing this belief is substantial. He'd be perfect for the job since Muslims aren't too fond of Christians, and American people anyway. Okay? In other words, Obama being in there. The Project for a New American Century laid out its plans shortly after being founded in the early 1997. Plans which included the events that we saw unfold on September 11, 2001. The crash of the stock market and the economy must occur, and that likely will be the trigger for martial law. Then will come the disarmament, followed shortly by the collapse of the American dollar. The merger of the 3 countries into the North American Union and the issue of the Amera will happen simultaneously, and the takeover will be complete. And at that point, 3 of the 4 major areas of the world will have been federalized or unionized. None of the European nations favored the European Union, but they got it anyway. Most of them are still scratching their heads wondering just how it was done. The African Union is already complete. Once the North American Union is formed, they'll move quickly to absorb Central and South America, and the American Union will be a reality. They're probably going to call that the South American Union. I don't know how far along they are with the Pacific Union, but you can bet your last useless buck that all the groundwork is in place and the trap is ready to be sprung. Now, the Bible talks a lot about the 10 kingdoms of Daniel and the Revelation and these types of things, and that there's going to be 10 different areas, and they have already got these. The North American Union is one of the 10. Okay, they haven't all been fully implemented yet, but that's already been laid in place as well. Everything will move rather quickly once the United States population has been disarmed and subdued. The constitutions for the unions all have already been written, and those who have seen them all say that the human and individual rights are not rights at all, but are really privileges granted by the state. Years of preparation have gone into this. Make no mistake about that. The moneyed vultures are determined to have the world government under the one central command that would be geographically located almost anywhere, including underground. The secret quote, continuity of government project has taken some 20 years to build the elaborate, self-contained, and completely powered underground facilities with all technology, accommodations, and comforts necessary to house our government